or how little or how often was the topic of mental health discussed in your household as a child?
It wasn't discussed at all in my household personally. It was one of those topics that never was brought up at the table. That's fine.
It wasn't really brought up much in my household until my younger brother was diagnosed with ADHD.
It wasn't discussed, and even when I was diagnosed with depression, I thought that they were crazy because I was like, my parents would have told me that, right? Mm-hmm. That was so strange to me because I don't remember a time where I wasn't depressed growing up. So yeah, we didn't talk about it, and even after I was diagnosed, we still didn't talk about it. As a matter of fact, my parents told me to not take the medication because they believed I wasn't depressed. Oh wow. Yes.
my mom, she is a counsellor. So mental health was always discussed in my household, but it was discussed more when she became a counsellor. She was a nurse. We always had a very close relationship, so I could always talk to her if there were any issues. But she started training to be a counsellor when I was 12 years old, and I remember the question she would ask me from being a mom to being a counsellor completely changed. When she became a counsellor, instead of saying, oh, you should do this, or what's going on, how does that make you feel? And I remember I was like, stop being a counsellor and just be my mom. It was interesting because I can talk to her now about things, and she is very much in tune to my moods and my feelings, even sometimes when I am not. She can tell that I'm having a rough day. But what was very interesting was that my friends, when they would come around to visit me, they would sit down and talk to her for hours about their problems, and then turn to me and say, your mom, she's such a good listener. Guys, she's doing that counsellor thing on you. Don't fall for it. But my friends really appreciated having her as a counsellor, her being a counsellor, because they themselves couldn't talk to their own parents and their own families. So it was good that they had that outlet with her, and I know that it helped me also talk to my friends and help them express how they're feeling.
And just to go off of what you're saying, do you think it was easier for your friends to communicate with your mother being that she was like a stranger? Because sometimes it's easier to express your feelings and vent to a stranger rather than a relative or someone that knows you personally. I don't know. Do you feel like that's a reasoning?
It was usually because I did have a lot of friends when I was young, but we were tight group little friends, and so my mom knew their parents, and but they felt that they could talk to her more. I never actually really asked them why, which is terrible. They were able to talk to her, but I don't think it's because she was a stranger. I think it's because she just listened to them more than anything. And I think it's about listening to people when they speak, because people can talk to each other, but they talk at each other rather than listening and taking in what other people actually saying. And my mom, she kind of switched from talking at me to talking, listening. So yeah, it was interesting.
Thank you very much. Alright, the next question I have for you guys: if you or someone in your household expressed concerns in regards to their mental health, how did your parents/guardians address it?
Well, at first, when it comes to like my brother's ADHD, we weren't sure how to handle it at first because we didn't know he had ADHD because he had been known to act out a lot. And his first real episode happened November 2012, and it was just me and him in the house. And I thought to myself, this is more than him just being bad at acting up. This might be something worse. And then the next time we were about to move, it was on his birthday, and he couldn't do anything because he hadn't been acting right, and he just had a fit for a whole hour. That's when actually my mother started to cry. And once my mother realized it was something worse than just acting up, she began taking him to the right doctors and making sure he was had the correct medicine prescribed. And even just recently, back in December, he had to have the medicine upgraded because he started having more episodes, even though he was taking his medicine.
Does anyone need
I was first of all, no one knew. I knew I would say I just feel, very depressed. I'm just not myself, or I just wasn't happy, and I would express that to my parents. But like to them, they were just like, "Oh, well, you're young," or like, so it wasn't a really big. Ooh. You get what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was literally like in the hospital, I had just tried to commit suicide, and I needed someone to come and discharge me because I was 17. And I was here, so all of my family is in Baltimore. And I called my dad, and he didn't even take it seriously. Not that he didn't care, but it was just like he couldn't grasp his mind around it because he couldn't imagine what you.
Do you think it's harder for parents to come to conclusions that their child may have something wrong with them?
Of course.
Do you think that's the overall reason why?
Yeah, I feel like that was the problem too,
Okay.
because it was like, that's my little girl, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like something was wrong. So yeah, and I guess another part to that was, I was the first person in my family to actually be open about being depressed or having anxiety. And like I said, when they prescribed me medication, my parents were just like, no, do not take that. It was a big deal.
You need me to repeat the question?
Okay, I'll skip that.
If you don't have an answer,
If
we'll
you
go
don't
to the
have
next
an
question.
answer,
Yes.
it's fine.
I don't think because I grew up in a single parent family, so it's just my mom and I. But if I had gone to her with an issue, I think she would have done something immediately about it.
Oh, that's nice.
So like in my immediate household, it was just me, my brothers, and my mom, and none of us really had to deal with any mental issues or anything like that. So we never had the concern brought up. But outside of my family, like with my aunts and stuff, they had children who dealt with it. So I believe as I got older, looking back over it, the topic came up more, and I think my family started taking it more serious than something just okay, it's just something they're dealing with. I think now, 2019, they take it more serious than ever. They're all about them taking their medication and doing what they need to do now.
Alright, so I know I just asked how your parents would react when you addressed them about your mental health, but was there anyone that you felt that you could openly talk about your mental health with besides your parents or a guardian?
No.
Well, with me, I can give a prime example. Last February, my father passed away, and about a little over a month after that, my older brother got murdered, and it was a time where it was hard for us, especially and me in particular. And of course, I can always talk to my mother about it and my grandmother who lives with us as well. But outside of my household, when I was at school, it were two specific teachers I knew I could talk to because I felt comfortable around them and I knew I could trust them about anything. And also my counselor. Those were people outside of my family I felt like I could talk to about those situations because that was a hard time for me and my family.
Honestly, probably not anyone outside of my household. School was definitely not a place you took your course, especially in the UK. I went to a school in London and racism was rife. So I remember when I was talking to the career specialist, they said black people are social workers or nurses. We shouldn't aim any higher. And so I remember going back to my mum and she said that because they had encouraged me not to go to university, and she was livid. So if you can imagine that kind of environment, there was no one who really let you ask or open up to or go to at all.
I have a question for Kevin.
So being on a campus, like, of course, ODU is bigger than Virginia Wesleyan. Do you feel like it's more, as there's better resources for people for you to go and talk to, or like it was easier for you to go and express that?
I think at ODU, yeah, we have a lot of resources. Like we have like a counseling center, and then we have different like counselors there that you can talk to. So I think at ODU, I think over time it grew to that, because at the same time when I first got to ODU, I don't remember hearing about like counseling service was probably there, but I don't remember hearing about the other mental health groups that are like out there now. So I think over time it has grown, but I do think we have the resources at ODU.
In what ways did your upbringing shape your perception of mental health?
For me, because my family was like so nonchalant about the topic, to me I kind of like was drawn towards it, like intrigued about it, which is why like I took up a major in psychology. So like I found interest in it as though my family did, and like as I learned more and more about it, I just wanted to like help out more so in that area. So the more they didn't talk about it, the more they didn't like it, the more interested in me and the more I looked into it.
I think with me mostly, like I said, with my brother, it made me realize you have to know how to talk to people with mental health problems. You have to know what ways you do talk to them. For example, if I can talk to some friends, I can't talk to someone with a mental health issue. And you also have to know how to handle a situation. And over the last few years, I've done good with it, and I've also not been good with handling certain situations.
It's definitely a learning process.
Yes.
Consistently learning.
For me, I think you do have to be careful about who you talk to mental health issues with. There are some friends who would run a mile or would go around telling everyone. So you have to be able to trust the person you open up to, and that can be very difficult to figure out. So yes, it's difficult, but I think once you realise how to talk to people and that you have a good relationship with your friends, you can open up with them. But I think that only comes with experience and age, really.
I think, especially in my household, a lot of times my dad would always say, you know, whatever happens in the house stays in the house. And a lot of the things that were causing me to be depressed or have anxiety or things like that is what was happening in the house. So, like, I just didn't feel right talking about it. It wasn't until I conquered depression that I was able to talk to people, and not to talk to people so that I can be like, oh, this is how this is what I've gone through, but I often use my experiences so that other people can know that they can make it and that they can get through it. I could have made it too.
Did you ever express to your father the issues that you were facing in the household?
You mean like during, like while it was happening?
Yeah, while you were, well, I guess initially when you were depressed, like you just said, well, Dad, like I feel like a lot of my depression stems from the issues that we're facing in the household or whatever.
No, because also I wasn't calling it depression.
Okay.
I didn't know I was depressed. I just was like, this sucks. Like, why do I have to, you know, deal with these things or whatever it might have been. So I wasn't calling it depression. I didn't know that it was that either.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things where I just had to cut it out.
And has the discussion about mental health in your household increased, decreased, or remained the same in your present day life?
It's still the same in my household. You know, where I call my mother and grandmother every day. And sometimes I ask them, you know, how's Kyrie, that's my younger brother, how they doing in school and stuff like that. But also I call them just because at times I do get homesick and I just don't feel good about that. And because I'm here in Virginia and my family's in Baltimore, so sometimes I call them and talk to them about that. And so I would say it's still the same, but sometimes it does increase.
After the passing away of your relatives, did your family like check on you more so to see if you were like struggling with it?
Absolutely.
More so? Okay.
Especially my father, because I I was 17 at the time. I was going on 18, and I remember when it happened, when my father passed away. My mother literally was, helping me make sure I was okay all the time. A lot of my not just family, friends. And last Saturday was the 1-year anniversary of his passing. And that weekend, and really this week in general, I've been getting phone calls, text messages from people, friends, family from Baltimore, friends here in Virginia, just checking up on me and see how I'm doing. So yes.
I think the discussion has definitely increased, but it's increased because the tables have turned, whereas a lot of my family members are feeling the same feelings that I was feeling, and they're just like, oh, well, how do we get through this? Like, what do we do? And it's just hard for me because I'm just like, where were you when I needed to do this? Come on now. But you've got to be, strong for them. I have a brother who's in the military, who's in the Marine Corps, and he was discharged, and he was dealing with a lot of like trauma from like being in war and things like that. And he calls me all the time like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And it's hard for me because I'm just like, I felt like I was going crazy too. Like, where was anybody? But I guess that's a part of the experience, is being able to go through things and get through things so that other people can be survivors as well.
So now you're the outlet for them now?
For literally everyone. And it's a lot, but you kind of just have to not be selfish about it and just get it done. Because I'm glad that it is a discussion now. I'm glad that it is a discussion.
It increased in my family as well. I said it earlier, like over time, it just grew I think my family had to get comfortable with it, because at first it was like an uncomfortable topic, but it definitely is a topic where like I can walk into the house coming from like work or something, they'll just ask like how my day is going, how I be feeling, like am I okay? So I think it definitely has increased in my household too.
Same. Yeah, it's always been there, but it's a lot more now. So it can only be a good thing, and it's been publicized so much recently, which again is fantastic, because there was always a stigma, particularly in the Black community in the UK, about talking about your feelings. There was always that you always had to just get on with things. We're minorities. Life is tough, you need to tough it out. And it makes you tough, and it can make you quite hard. But then you realise that, or I realised that there were lots of people who, despite having a very hard exterior, that they were kind of just crumbling inside, but they didn't even know how to open up, because they've just become so hardened to the harsh reality of just living.
Has your mom ever told you how different it is now from then how it was, when you were younger, like in society, not like in your household, but how mental health in the Black community is now and how it's different than before?
Well, she grew up in Sierra Leone, and then went to the UK when she was 18 to train to be a midwife. So, and she always had a very good relationship with her dad rather than her mum, my grandma. My grandma apparently was very harsh. She didn't do feelings either. My mum actually told me that the only reason her mum ever touched her was to beat her up. She never gave her a hug at all. She wasn't tactile in any way. But that was the way things were in Sierra Leone in the 40s and 50s. There was no touchy-feely, no hugs. And I see my aunts now, and I realise they're in a way kind of the same. Whereas my cousins, my generation and younger, we're all like touchy-feely. It's completely different. So I think we, the next generation, are talking more about things. And also, I remember my cousin when she got married, she said that I'm bringing up my children completely differently to how she didn't want the same relationship that she had with her mother to have with her kids. So she's a completely different person. So it's amazing. So I think we see things that happen when we were younger and in our parents' time, and we take the good and the bad, and then we try to make it better.
Alright, so what do you believe are some contributions to the stigma surrounding mental health in the Black community?
That's a hard question. I think a lot of it is we often feel like as African Americans that we need to be strong all the time. And not only do we need to be strong, but we need to succeed in everything that we have. So we don't have time to be depressed or sad or, you know, we don't have, because you need to get up and go to work and you need to go to the doctor. Like, you need to, like, you don't have time for that. And so I think a lot of times, I think that plays a big role in it, right? Just being able to, yes, you can succeed, and yes, you will be amazing, and yes, you know, you will accomplish all of your aspirations, but you're depressed and you need to figure that out. Like, you need, because the problem is when we push it to the side, it doesn't go away just because we've masked it, right? It kind of grows until you deal with it, and then you're a depressed doctor, okay? Like, it doesn't change, and then it's a cycle because then your kids, and like she said, like my parents, I don't think they knew that they were depressed, but they were, and so they weren't able to function properly as parents. So then now all your kids are depressed. You know what I'm saying? Because you couldn't love them the way that they needed to be loved effectively, right? You were just sowing seeds of depression. And so I think that's the biggest contribution is one, feeling like you always need to be strong because it is okay to have an off day. I talked about that yesterday. Just being okay to have an off day, like you can have, like when you're knocked down, when you get knocked out in a boxing fight, like you get 10 seconds. Okay, like after the 10 seconds and you need to get up, but enjoy those 10 seconds of just feeling yourself, right? And it sounds funny, but it's true. Enjoy the 10 seconds of feeling like yourself and then get up. But you can't just, if you don't, sometimes you need those 10 seconds to recharge. Sometimes you need those 10 seconds to say, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling, and ow, right? It's one of the things, because if not, you're just like, you're being more destructive than productive. If you're not being productive, you're being unproductive, and you got to choose what you're gonna do.
To be honest, it's kind of hard to follow that. Unfortunately, racism and negative stereotypes are still a problem and can still play a part. For example, an authority figure not believing an African American with a mental disability just because of them being African American, or the stereotype that all Black people are just tougher and they have to deal with it. And this could also go to, for example, like athletes. Whenever you hear like an athlete having depression or something like that, an athlete in particular just supposed to say, well, just go out there and play and deal with it. And sometimes those situations aren't taken into account. And that's when I truly understood the edge of when people say money doesn't buy happiness, because people with money can still get depressed, they can still get upset, and still have mental issues. And I didn't understand, I never understood why anyone with money would be depressed with their life or not happy with their life. And that's when I heard like of athletes, especially athletes coming into sports, having depression, that's when I truly understood what that meant.
I think there is a lot that people have to deal with, no matter where they are in the West, and the fact that we do have to be strong. You're right, we don't have time to be weak in any way. To be honest, whenever there is something, I always give myself 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to cry, to be angry, to be upset, and then I'm like, right, what's the next thing? How do I fix this? How can I get on? But you're right, you do need that 10 to 15 minutes. There have been many times when I've needed that to extend that to half an hour.
Need a day or a year. I don't care. If I need a year, I'm gonna take a year.
Yeah, but you do need to take the time. But I think a lot of people don't realize that they can take that time. They think that if they succumb, then it will just make them weak completely. But it doesn't, because you have to acknowledge your feelings, no matter whether or not they're positive, negative. You feel completely out of your depth, but you need to be able to acknowledge those feelings, and then once you acknowledge them, you can move forward. To be honest, I don't really think there have been any contributions to stigma surrounding mental health, particularly in Black people. it's become something that is talked about, if I can say this, in the white community, particularly in the UK. It's a new thing. Do you know the royal family in the UK? Okay, of course, Meghan, sorry. So Prince William and Prince Harry, they started a charity to talk about mental health in the UK, and they started talking about their feelings when their mother, Princess Diana, died. And everyone knows that the royal family is very cold and very rigid and full of protocols. So for them to do that and to do it on camera, everyone was like, wow, isn't this amazing? If they can do it, the royals, then it's okay for us to talk about our feelings. And I remember watching the news that day, and I was like, that's great, but that's not really helping the stigma surrounding Black people. It's helping break down barriers for people, upper middle class people in the UK, but there's still that stigma attached to mental health in the UK. The most specifically Black males in the UK are the highest number, who are the ones who are more likely to use the mental health services in the UK. And the stigma is such that families keep it quiet to the point where they become so violent that they are basically locked away in hospitals. There was a case that was last year, and it was someone who my aunt knew. Apparently the son had mental health issues for years and no one knew about it. And one day he tried to kill her. She was in hospital for nearly 3 months. So, and then he was locked up for attempted murder. So the fact, if she had tried to get him help earlier, he wouldn't have needed so much medication, and then he wouldn't have become so violent. But she tried to, yeah, and it's really because of the shame aspect. And this is like last year when it happened, 2018. So I don't think, I think it's also cultural as well. I think it's different, maybe different with African Americans in the US.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you come from an African background, when you're the first generation in a community, you have to succeed. There's always, for example, when I graduated with my PhD, all of my aunts told all of their friends. It was like the biggest thing. Like everywhere, every family event, they would make me stand up and tell everyone that I got my PhD because it was such a huge thing. And it's all about achieving. You can't fail. There's no room for failure. So
I agree, and I like that too because, and I do think culture plays a big part into it. First of all, me and my siblings are like the first in my whole entire family to not be born in Jamaica, right? And so even now, like my dad, he used to always say, I didn't come to America for you guys to go and play football. Like, it was like simple things like that. And even now, like, I'm the first in my entire family to graduate from a university. And everyone is just so excited and it's hard for me to say, but where were you when because it's like, that's not what's important. I literally lost my mind. But they don't care. It's like, but you did it though, and you succeeded, and you have a degree. So, we're okay. But I think that, I think culture does play a big part in it. And another thing, it kind of leads into the next question about the, I don't mean to rush into the next thing, but just the 5 years ago, people, you're depressed. Like, it was just like, that's not no, you're not, don't say that. It was a kind of dreaded word, to say it. And so now everyone is like, no, we're depressed. And I'm like, and I can talk about it and I can tell people, but I feel like now the only difference is that we're able to just openly say that we're depressed. There's still no, how do we cope with this? How do we deal with this type of thing? And not to say for everyone, because there are a lot of people who are able to say, no, I survived it. But very rarely do we have mediums like this, where we can say, this is how I felt, this is what I was going through, and this is how I